We continue to work remotely because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but what hasn't changed is our commitment to bringing you the latest and most important news from the African continent and around the world. This is today's Africa 54. We begin in Niger, where at least 20 nursery school children died on Tuesday in a fire that trapped them in straw hut classrooms in a school in a poor neighborhood of the West African nation's capital, according to government officials. An official of Niger's Teachers Union said the school in the popular Pays Bas neighborhood had around 800 students, including children in the nursery section. Prime Minister Omodu Mahamudu visited the site of the fire and sent his condolences to the families of the victims. He promised to do everything so that if the cause of the fire is a crime, the perpetrators will be brought to justice. In Southern Africa, the United Nations Food Agency has warned that more than 950,000 people are facing severe hunger in northern Mozambique, where a simmering Islamic State-linked insurgency has escalated over the past year. Maha Al-Badrawi of Reuters has more.
Almost 1 million people are facing severe hunger in northern Mozambique, the United Nations Food Agency said on Tuesday. The northern Cabo Delgado province has been home to a simmering insurgency since 2017. But over the last year, militants linked to Islamic State have escalated attacks, murdering villagers, fighting the army, and seizing towns. At the end of last month, an assault on the town of Palma forced tens of thousands to flee. Addressing a briefing in Geneva, World Food Programme spokesman Thomson Perry said that with the security situation continuing to deteriorate, more than 950,000 are now facing severe hunger. Regional leaders from countries including South Africa, Zimbabwe and Botswana met in Mozambique's capital Maputo last week to discuss a response to the insurgency. They resolved to send a mission to the country to assess the threat and how they can help, Mozambique's foreign minister said. Zimbabwe's president, Emerson Mnangagwa, said leaders had agreed to revive a regional force immediately so that it could intervene.
That was Maha Al-Badrawi of Reuters reporting. Burkina Faso's former president, Blaise Compaoré, was charged on Tuesday over the infamous killing of his predecessor, Thomas Sankara. Africa 54 managing editor Vincent Makori has this report.
Burkina Faso's former president Blaise Compaoré has been charged in absentia in relation to the 1987 murder of his predecessor Thomas Sankara. It is one of the most infamous killings in Africa's post-independence history. Sankara, a charismatic Marxist revolutionary often known as Africa's Che Guevara, was assassinated during a coup led by his former friend Compaoré. Compaoré then went on to rule Burkina Faso for 27 years. He was ousted in a 2014 uprising and fled to Ivory Coast, where he is believed to still live. He previously denied involvement in Sankara's death. Sankara remains a hero for many in West Africa. He ruled Burkina Faso for 4 years, having seized power in a 1983 coup. In that time, he became the first leader to denounce the menace of AIDS, took a stand against the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, and promoted women's rights. On Tuesday, a military tribunal charged Compaoré with complicity in Sankara's assassination, undermining state security and receiving cadavers. That's according to a court document seen by Reuters. Compaoré's former right-hand man, General Gilbert Diendéré, was also charged with several crimes, including complicity in the assassination. Diendéré, who has been in prison since a failed coup in 2015, was in court to hear the charges and will enter a plea later. Burkina Faso issued an arrest warrant for Compaoré in 2015, but Ivory Coast has declined to hand him over. Vincent Makori, VOA News.
Authorities are investigating a bus collision with another vehicle in southern Egypt, which killed at least 20 people and injured 3 others. A government official in the province of Asyut, south of Cairo, said the bus overturned while attempting to pass another vehicle on a highway when it was struck by the truck, causing both vehicles to burst into flames. Asyut Governor Issam Saad's office released photographs of the scene and rescuers searching for possible survivors. Traffic accidents kill thousands every year in Egypt. Speeding is among the main causes of most crashes. Several U.S. states have for the time being stopped providing Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccines in line with federal guidance after 6 people who received the shots developed rare blood clots. Meanwhile, several countries have suspended the AstraZeneca vaccines after reports it may also be linked to blood clots. White House correspondent Patsy Widakuswara reports.
U.S. federal health agencies called for the suspension of the Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine on Tuesday after 6 women developed rare blood clots within 2 weeks of receiving the shot. Experts say the clots were observed in the sinuses of the brain. 1 woman died. Almost 7 million Johnson & Johnson shots have been delivered in the U.S., making the risk less than 1 in a million, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The White House said the pause has been put in place out of an abundance of caution and will not significantly impact vaccine rollout.
The J&J vaccine makes up less than 5% of the more than 190 million recorded shots in arms in the United States to date.
The Biden administration says the U.S. has secured enough Pfizer and Moderna doses for 300 million Americans and will continue to administer an average of over 3 million shots per day. Still, the Johnson & Johnson suspension is expected to scare off those already hesitant to get vaccinated. That's about 20% of Americans, according to polls. It will also make it harder to reach underserved communities since J&J doses do not have to be stored at ultra-cold temperatures and is the only single-shot vaccine being used in the U.S.
Think about homeless populations, where it's very difficult to find those people a second time. So even if you go out to, mobile clinics to certain populations, it's just very hard to get to them twice. And so a single-dose vaccine is a great tool for that kind of vaccine outreach.
Meanwhile, several countries have either suspended the AstraZeneca vaccine or stopped giving it to younger people, also due to the potential danger of rare blood clots.
The J&J vaccine and the AstraZeneca vaccine are made in very similar ways, different from Moderna and Pfizer. And of course, one of the questions is, if this blood clotting event is related to the vaccines, what's special about these vaccines that might induce these blood clotting events? We don't know the answers to that yet, but that's part of the investigation.
Issues with AstraZeneca and J&J are complicating vaccine rollout in Europe and other places. But the executive director of the European Medicines Agency, Emmer Cook, insists that the risk of death from COVID-19 is much greater than the risk of side effects.
I think it's important that we give the message that vaccines will help us in the fight against COVID, and we need to continue to use these vaccines.
As of now, Johnson & Johnson said there is no clear causal relationship between these rare blood clot events and the vaccine. Patsy Widakuswara, WEWE News.
South Africa has also suspended the rollout of Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine, the health minister announced on Tuesday after U.S. federal health agencies recommended pausing its use because of rare cases of blood clots. South Africa's health regulator approved Johnson & Johnson's one-shot vaccine 2 weeks ago, but it has only been given to health workers in a research study so far. The government expects to receive its first batch of commercial doses later this month as part of a deal with Johnson & Johnson for 31 million doses. Much of Europe has been forced back into lockdown amid a deadly third wave of the coronavirus. In Britain, however, pubs, shops and services reopened Monday as the government held its vaccination program for cutting infections. Henry Ridgewell reports from London.
Back in lockdown and stretched to the breaking point, restaurant owners gathered in Rome Monday to protest government orders to close.
We are tired of this. We need to return to work. We can't just do it anymore.
Italy is one of several European countries struggling with a third wave of the virus. France, Germany and several other states have extended lockdowns. Doctors warn more young people are being hospitalized with the virus. Germany's Chancellor has this stark warning.
This third wave might turn out to be the toughest one of all for us.
The surge is driven by the so-called B.1.1.7 variant of the virus, first identified in Britain, which was hit hard in January. But now Britain is bucking the European trend. Pubs and shops reopen Monday as hospitalisations have fallen to levels last seen in the summer. More than 60% of British adults have received a first dose of vaccine.
There is a huge third wave of COVID sweeping Europe at the moment, and that's in part due to the fact that not very high proportion of their population has been vaccinated. Vaccination programs are complicated things, and they do rely on public confidence.
Polls show public confidence in the AstraZeneca vaccine in Britain is around 75%. But a majority of people in France, Germany, Italy and Spain believe the jab to be unsafe. Confusion over trial data led to the vaccine initially being restricted to those under 65. But in a policy reversal, several countries are now restricting the vaccine to older age groups after cases of rare blood clots emerged among younger people.
These are very rare events. They still exist, but we need to balance that against the risk of developing COVID or developing severe disease or even dying from COVID. And in most places and for most people, that is a much, much, much greater risk.
Europe is trying to boost public confidence. France's Prime Minister was given the AstraZeneca vaccine on live television. After a slow start, inoculation programs are gaining speed, using vaccines from Pfizer-BioNTech, Moderna, AstraZeneca and Janssen. Germany gave a record 720,000 doses in one day last week. But Europe's troubled rollout of the AstraZeneca vaccine has implications beyond its own borders, as global public confidence in the drug appears to be falling. The AstraZeneca shot is cheaper and easier to produce than other vaccines and can be kept at normal refrigerator temperatures.
And so for all of those reasons, I think this vaccine is of utmost importance. It's kind of the backbone of the global vaccination campaign.
The African Union last week cancelled plans to procure the AstraZeneca vaccine, citing a desire to diversify its options. The bloc said the decision was unrelated to concerns over blood clots. But health experts say it could further fuel vaccine hesitancy, and they are calling for global awareness campaigns to counter misinformation. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Coming up, a Ghanaian enterprise uses the internet to fight against climate change. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Africa 54. Attorneys for Derek Chauvin are presenting their arguments defending the now fired Minneapolis police officer charged in George Floyd's death. VOA's Jesusime Ani has more.
Prosecutors pursuing murder and manslaughter charges against Derek Chauvin gave way for his legal team to present their case on Tuesday.
Does the state have an additional witness?
Your Honor, the state of Minnesota rests.
Thank you.
Over the more than 2 weeks of testimony featuring police body cam and surveillance footage, eyewitnesses, medical experts, and law enforcement officers, prosecutors have argued that George Floyd died because Chauvin pressed his knee into Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. Chauvin's lawyer, disputing that argument, called to the stand Barry Broad, a retired police officer who testified that Chauvin's actions were justified due to Floyd's frantic resistance.
I felt that Officer Chauvin's interactions with Mr. Floyd were following his training, following current practices in policing, and were objectively reasonable.
However, under cross-examination, he agreed that officers should stop or lessen use of force when it becomes unreasonable.
The defendant did not alter the level of force that he was using on Mr. Floyd, did he?
No.
Even though Mr. Floyd, by this point, had become, as you put, compliant. Fair?
More compliant, yes.
The defense is arguing that drugs and underlying health issues contributed to Floyd's death and that an unruly crowd distracted the police officers. Peter Chang, a Minneapolis Park police officer who was on the scene during Floyd's arrest, testified to the nature of the crowd.
Did you notice anything in terms of the tone or tenor of the voices of those people?
They were very aggressive. Aggressive towards the officers, yes.
Meanwhile, just miles from where the trial is taking place, another fatal shooting of a black man by a police officer has escalated tensions in a community already on edge. President Joe Biden met with Congressional Black Caucus members Tuesday.
You know, Dante Wright in Minnesota, that god-awful shooting resulting in his death, and in the midst of an ongoing trial over the killing of George Floyd. But we're in the business, all of us meeting today, to deliver some real change.
The death of Floyd, whose final moments were captured on bystander cell phone video, sparked outrage and protests denouncing police violence across the globe. Jesus Samelny, VOA News, Washington.
President Joe Biden is set to announce in a speech Wednesday that the United States will withdraw all of its forces from Afghanistan before this year's 20th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks that triggered America's longest war. VOA senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain has the story.
The U.S.-led war in Afghanistan is now the longest-running war in American history, and thousands of American, NATO, and Afghan troops have died, along with more than 43,000 Afghan civilians. The White House says President Joe Biden will tell the nation that America's role in that war will end before the 20th anniversary of the September 11th al-Qaeda terrorist attacks on the United States.
But I will say that the president has been consistent in his view that there's not a military solution to Afghanistan, that we have been there for far too long.
Psaki said Biden also believes the U.S. needs to focus its resources on fighting the threats it faces today, almost 20 years after the war began. Some Republican lawmakers were quick to condemn the announcement, even though former President Donald Trump had wanted U.S. troops out of Afghanistan by this May. Republican Senator Mitch McConnell called it a grave mistake.
A reckless pullback like this would abandon our Afghan regional and our NATO partners in a shared fight against terrorists that we've not yet won. It will also specifically abandon the women of Afghanistan, whose individual freedoms and human rights will be imperiled.
One analyst told VOA he agrees that this is a decision that shows disregard for U.S. partners in Kabul and around the world.
This opens up, I think, the gates here very clearly to a Taliban takeover. The government will not be able to survive very long without American presence.
The Taliban was also swift to react, saying they would not participate in peace talks until all foreign troops have left their homeland. The talks, to be held in Turkey, had been announced just hours earlier at the United Nations.
The Republic of Turkey, the State of Qatar, and the United Nations said they are co-convening a high-level and inclusive conference from the 24th of April to the 4th of May between the representatives of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan and the Taliban.
It is not clear whether the talks would still take place. Afghan civilians are weary of the loss of innocent life in targeted attacks, such as this one in Jalalabad late last month that killed 3 women polio vaccine workers. Government officials in Kabul attribute most targeted attacks to the Taliban. Cindy Sain, VOA News.
In our tech news, a Ghanaian youth-oriented initiative uses its e-commerce platform, shorturl.at, to fight against climate change by urging its subscribers to contribute to planting trees directly. The online platform also empowers artisans and local women by creating a value chain that enables them to produce quality made-in-Ghana products. Africa 54 tech correspondent Paul Ndiho via Skype spoke to Jonathan Kojo, co-founder of Jowato in northern Ghana.
Jonathan Kojo, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much.
You are one of those young budding entrepreneurs who is trying to come up with his own green revolution. Tell me more about that.
We are identifying technological trends, and it's quite obvious that e-commerce is one of such trends when it comes to, our jurisdiction, that is Africa. Now we know that a number of people, because of globalization, can access products from anywhere at all in the world using internet. And this is what we have done. So in our small way, we've come out with a technological platform that is meant to give especially African producers and manufacturers a global market platform while allowing them to use this same platform to contribute directly to tree planting. That is offsetting the amount of carbon that they emit. So this is what Jowato is set to do. And we have rolled out the model, and this is what we are doing at the moment.
If I hear you correctly, your business model, you're sort of like an e-commerce platform, but at the same time, you're trying to get people to contribute to tree planting when they use your services.
Our model basically is trying to get everyone involved in the funding process of tree planting. We know very well that at the moment, we depend on organizations, some few corporate bodies who want to contribute a little to, as a way of contributing to their social responsibilities and all of that. But we are looking at a model that can capture everyone in funding tree planting activities.
So how did you come up with this fascinating way of doing business?
One day, I came out from my house and I realized that the tree was cut down. Within a few days, a lady and, in the company of some men were planting a kiosk. After a few months, I realized this kiosk was basically meant to sell shea butter. Then I started wondering. I was trained as a computer scientist, and I was thinking, is there a way to help this woman who, in her quest to make life better, has fallen down a tree, a whole tree that probably was there for about 20 years, maybe, with the internet, and we can get her to take her products globally just by giving her a store on a website, and at the same time save several other trees that would have been cut down for the purpose of, putting kiosks that will probably serve a few people around that community.
How many people use your platform?
At the moment, we have about 147 sellers, that's vendors, mostly local entrepreneurs. We have up to about over 4,000 active subscribers, and we also generate a lot of sales, daily on our platform. Every day we have people believing in our dream. We have people who care about trees also shopping from our platform. And yes, it's more of a new revolution in the e-commerce industry here in Ghana.
How are people embracing this Go Green revolution?
There's a new wave, and this wave is catching up with people. People are beginning to see the essence of trees. Even children now understand the value of trees. The heat is becoming very unbearable, and the issue of climate change is becoming very real, with very practical examples that we see daily. And we have people, really aligning with us, and also the sellers. They also feel that, look, there's a good opportunity for me to give back to my land. So I would want to sell on your platform, and I would invite my customers to buy on your platform so that we will be able to together give back to the land.
To what extent has climate change had an impact on that part of Ghana where you are?
Northern Ghana can be very hot with temperatures rising sometimes over 40 degrees. I'm not an expert in climate change, but I always give this one single example. While I was growing up, I remember that when it rained, we had hailstones. And I don't remember the last time I saw hailstones again. And I don't think our children might be seeing hailstones if we don't do something. And I remember talking with my mom, and my mom would always tell me that, look, there used to be a lot of trees. And even as early as January, February, in northern Ghana, we used to have rains. There's still no rain in northern Ghana. And I think we understand to the extent of, there's a lot of drought, a lot of heat. These hailstones, farmers can no longer predict the rain. All these, for me, are clear signs that climate change is real. And, we are suffering the consequences of it.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you very much.
That was Africa 54's tech correspondent Paul Ndiho speaking to Jonathan Kojo, co-founder of Jowato in northern Ghana. Predicting whether an outbreak is likely to happen is now possible with the COVID-19 outbreak detection tool, a map that shows the coming hotspots for the disease if accurate data is available. Viewers Elizabeth Lee has the details.
What if you could look at a map and know where the next COVID-19 outbreak would be and how soon it would happen? One exists, fueled by machine learning.
So in order to respond to the pandemic at the local level, it's important to understand how the disease spreads at what rate in a given county or in a given city.
Available to the public, this online map is not a present snapshot of how much disease there is in a community. It's a summary of how fast the virus is spreading. The darker the colors on the map, the more likely an outbreak will happen. This type of prediction is possible with the help of data entered into an algorithm. The data include reported COVID-19 cases and deaths, geographic location, employment rate, face mask mandates, daily number of tests, and other information.
As in any prediction modeling, the quality is as good as the input data is.
Analyzing the data for each county would take days or weeks for humans to make a prediction. But machine learning speeds up and automates the process of detecting an outbreak. Researchers say even with vaccines, something like this COVID-19 outbreak detection tool is still valuable.
If new strains come with new variants and the vaccine is not working on them, or at some point the duration of protection from vaccines will wane. We don't know that yet when it's going to happen, but at some point it may happen. It may happen 12 months from now or 18 months from now.
Currently, this tool only predicts outbreaks in the U.S. because of the challenge of collecting data in other countries. With enough information, researchers say they are open to creating a detection tool for other countries in the future to help public health officials better plan or even avoid an outbreak. Elizabeth Lee, VOA News.
That's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.
Ili kuwa mwanafamilia bora wa Global TV, usisahau kusubscribe, like, kushare na kucomment. Baada ya kusubscribe, bonyeza alama ya kengele ili kupata taarifa kwa kila video inayopanda Global TV Online.